Goryth and the three crypt cleaners walked through the gate and into the dark chamber that lay ahead. Lit only by the light from the chamber behind them, they cast long shadows into this new gloom as they entered. The thieves were relieved when the wizard conjured a sphere of moonlight in front of them, lighting up the area. The room looked old and abandoned, but had richly ornamented stone walls and pillars, the characteristic Baroque style of blue blood architecture. A dark corridor extended in front of them, and the wizard, with obvious familiarity, wasted no time in following it. The tired thieves shuffled along behind, hauling the heavy wooden chest as best they could. They hadn't walked long when the wizard came to a halt, blocked it seemed by an unexpected obstacle. The corridor appeared to have collapsed, and the way ahead was completely blocked by rubble.
"What do you think of this, priest?"
said Goryth in his characteristic impassive tone, having stopped in front of the debris.
I can't do this anymore. I'm dying,
complained Ernon, more concerned by his exertions than responding to the wizard.
"Look at the rubble and tell me what you see."
Making an effort, Ernon looked ahead.
I don't see anything. The path seems to be blocked. There is no way forward.
Curious as always, Pepper tried his night glass as the priest spoke. He was starting to make a habit of it, taking a look through the lens at any available opportunity. He loved how clear everything looked through the crystal, no matter how dark it was. This time, however, not only did he see the room in perfect detail, but he also noticed that the rubble ahead was not really there. All he could see was a series of translucent shapes in the form of the debris. It wasn't invisible, like the floating box before, but it was clearly not real.
"My lord, I think I know what this is. It's an illusion,"
exclaimed Pepper, proud of his discovery.
I'm disappointed in you, priest. The bold thief seems to have a better eye than you.
"Good job, Pepper," praised Lismond, causing the priest to mumble something in annoyance.
I didn't look at it properly. Besides, anyone could do it with that trinket you gave him,
responded Ernon, offended.
"I think someone's jealous. I mean, if you'd like to swap my small trinket for your legendary sunrod of divine power and incalculable value, Ernon, then..."
"Oh, shut it,"
barked the priest. Pepper couldn't help but grin a little.
"This is no simple illusion. There is a force projection giving it a physical substance," spoke Goryth impassively. "Have you transferred your sunlight to your new sunrod, priest?" Yes, I did so on our way here." "Good. Dispel this moonlight for us then."
And seeing as the priest was still catching his breath, added,
"Now, priest, we do not have all night." Always in such a rush.
The priest did not enjoy being bossed around, but his fear of the wizard was strong enough to push him into action. Mumbling something inaudible and cursing his decision to work for the blue blood, Ernon pushed his shoulders back and stood up straight, drawing out Kandan's rod. The legendary scepter was warm to the touch and hummed with a power that begged to be released. It was hard to describe, but the sunrod was nothing like his previous scepter. The difference between the two was the difference between a common sickle and a steel scythe. Holding it alone was enough to make him feel powerful. It was something of an exhilarating experience. Taking a few steps away from his friends towards the rubble, Ernon fixed the stones with an energized intent. He raised his sunrod, and the sacred instrument began to shine, gradually releasing its holy sunlight.
Yes, I can see this is an illusion.
Focusing, the priest made his light shine stronger, and as he did so, the rubble ahead started to change. The larger blocks began to lose some of their sharpness and clarity, and a few of the scattered fragments faded from view entirely.
"It's a powerful illusion, but it's retreating. It's working!" exclaimed Ernon excitedly, feeling the energy running through his body. As the light increased in intensity, the illusion receded, becoming gradually more translucent and undefined, until eventually what was once an impassable cave-in was now simply not there. Swelling with a sense of pride at the success of his performance, the sun priest looked over his shoulder and gave Pepper a boastful, smug grin before lowering his sunrod. "Your projection was proper, priest. Let us proceed." Having circumvented the obstacle, the four men continued onwards until the corridor opened into a walled garden.
Sweating as they were from carrying the chest through the stuffy tunnels, they welcomed the cool of the outside air. The garden had clearly not been attended to for a very long time, and was overgrown with weeds and creeping vines which matted the walls. A large statue stood bathed in moonlight at its centre, in the form of a muscular naked man. Its head was an up-facing half-moon, which gave the otherwise anatomically correct figure an unnatural, eerie look. On the other side of the garden, a large iron gate awaited them.
"Stay on your toes and away from that statue. My friend does not seem to be in the mood for visitors,"
spoke Goryth to the others as he walked towards the fortress gate. The crypt cleaners rested the heavy chest at the garden's entrance and looked at each other with exhausted expressions.
"Oh, I can't do this anymore, Lisbon. Oh, if I have to carry this unnaturally heavy piece of rubbish one more step."
We're almost there, Ernon. Look, those should be the gates to the fortress, I'm sure. I could use a nice kip.
You could also use a nice bath.
The three companions jumped out of their skin as Goryth, having reached the gate, banged its heavy ring handle against its metal surface, producing a deep reverberating sound.
"Good son! That wizard is going to be the end of me,"
complained Ernon.
"Oh, son, does he have to hit it so hard?"
The three companions watched on, unsure of what would happen next.
"I fear we are not welcomed,"
Goryth informed them suddenly, turning his back to the gate.
"Be on your guard. Moonlight is flowing."
Lismond immediately took his hand to his sword, prepared to draw it at the slightest sign of danger. Ernon, worried, raised his sunrod and made it shine. Pepper, seeing the other two, followed suit, and raised the night glass to his right eye. To his surprise, he noticed streams of light that were otherwise invisible to the naked eye, flowing all around them. He followed their path, taking a few steps towards the centre of the courtyard, watching them flow into the statue before him.
"Stay away from the statue. It's an automaton,"
warned the wizard. Lismond and Ernon slowly looked to the large sculpture in the middle of the garden, and Pepper's gaze moved from its feet up to the moon-shaped head that towered above him. No sooner had they fixed their gazes upon it, the statue came to life. A silver light burst from inside it, escaping through previously hidden lines that showed its body was segmented in a manner similar to that of a doll or marionette. And then, with a quick jerk, the limbs defined by these lines began to move. Despite being at least taller than two men, the statue moved with surprising agility, adjusting its stance and probing its surroundings. As it did so, a series of glyphs lit up across its body, pulsing with an unnatural energy. "Pepper, move!" shouted the leader, noticing the statue was turning towards the bold thief, who was dangerously close to it. Pepper was slow to react, still absorbed by his night glass observations, distracted by the shimmerings which were impossibly bright in front of him. Ernon, seeing the statue's arm raising, and being the nearest one to him, instinctively reacted. He strode towards Pepper and pushed the man away with all his strength, sending the unprepared thief tumbling to the ground. The priest quickly realised his sacrifice, however, seeing how the agile statue's arm was already descending in a crushing arc and would now strike him instead. In the few moments he had left, he realised he would not be able to escape the incoming blow. Closing his eyes, he managed to mumble a curse.
"You fool!"
But whether that was at his foolish friend or at his own foolish actions, he did not know.
"Get out of the way, priest!"
shouted Goryth. His eyes snapping open, Ernon saw that the blue blood was somehow standing in front of him, holding his silver sceptre high in the air. He had no idea how he had gotten there so fast, but somehow the mighty statue arm had not crushed him. "Come, Ernon, move!" exclaimed Lismond, the leader now gripping the priest's upper arms, dragging him out of the statue's range. The statue slammed its fist down again, and Ernon saw it crashing into a floating disc of moonlight which shone above the wizard. Goryth seemed to be projecting it with his magic, and was using it as a shield. The frenzied statue was hammering its fist against the wizard's disc, which seemed to be incredibly hard, as he could see small chips of stone flying in all directions every time the blows impacted. The wizard, however, seemed to shake under the stress of each hit, causing the disc's light to sometimes fade as the incredible force dissipated.
Lismond, pierce the center of its chest at my signal,
shouted Goryth, showing strain in his voice. With each successive hit, his disc was growing weaker and its light more unstable. When it seemed like the magic shield would not be able to take another hit, the wizard dispelled it and with a strange distortion in the space around him, blinked out of existence. A fraction of a second later, the next fist smashed into the ground where once the wizard stood.
Where did he go?
cried Ernon.
There, by the gate, behind the statue,
answered Lismond, pointing at the place where Goryth seemed to have materialised.
Sun Priest, keep your sun rod shining,
shouted the blue blood, causing the priest to break from his stupor. He stood defiant once more, facing the statue, sun rod aloft, and increasing the light's intensity in response. Raising its fist and seeing no wizard crushed beneath it, the statue scanned the garden for new targets. The crypt cleaners were standing right in front of it, but the increasingly strong light of Ernon's sunrod caused it to recoil and turn about to face the wizard behind it. Detecting his previous opponent again, the animated sculpture strode forward with no delay, preparing his now battered fists for a new attack. The wizard was prepared, however, and with a sudden gesture threw a handful of coins into the air. The silvery objects immediately started glowing, and after a second hand motion from the wizard, shot off towards the statue. The coins impacted the automaton's chest and stuck there, staying glued to its surface as if being held by a magical force. Then, bracing one foot and one hand against the iron gate behind him, the wizard extended his moonrod and pushed. The statue, which was now racing towards the blue blood, was struck by a sudden force to its chest, strong enough to knock it off its feet. It fell heavily onto its back, the sound of rock on rock clanging as stone chips flew away from the impact.
Now! Pierce its chest!
Commanded the wizard. Terrified, but without hesitation, Lismond advanced from the protective light his priestly companion was projecting and leapt onto the automaton's chest, weapon in hand. With practiced skill, he thrust his witchblade down into its stony body. He strangely felt a force assisting him in the downwards motion, and was surprised to find that the hard surface below offered little resistance. His blade pushed through the stone with a grinding sound as it punctured the material. As it went deeper, streaks of bright silver light started to break out from the statue's wound. The automaton's head snapped forward to look at the thief upon its chest. It attempted to rise, but its limbs went stiff and then stretched with a sudden movement that resembled a spasm, almost causing Lismond to lose his balance.
Run, Lismond! Get off the automaton now!
Shouted Goryth. Needing no more encouragement, Lismond yanked the sword from the shining torso and leapt from the statue. With but a few feet of distance between him and the fallen figure, a sudden powerful gust hit him and sent him flying into the air.